What if Caitlin Clark's entire rookie season was orchestrated by forces way bigger than basketball? What the WNBA establishment doesn't want you to know is that behind closed doors, executives were in full panic mode about one player having too much power. And now, leaked details from her recent appearance on the New Heights podcast reveal the shocking truth about what really happened during her injury-plagued season, the secrets behind her Nike deal that could change everything, and why sources close to the organization say this was all part of a calculated plan. If you thought you knew Caitlin Clark's story, think again. Before we expose what really went down, smash that subscribe button, because this channel is the only place revealing what happens behind the curtain in the WNBA. Here's what nobody's talking about. When Caitlin Clark sat down with Travis and Jason Kelsey for what seemed like a casual podcast appearance, she wasn't just promoting a shoe. Sources reveal she was sending a message to everyone who tried to slow her down. The timing of this interview wasn't coincidental. It came right after emergency meetings between Nike executives and WNBA leadership about the power dynamics shifting in women's basketball. Leaked audio from insiders suggests that Clark's Nike campaign, the one she casually mentioned was a long time coming, was actually delayed multiple times because league officials were terrified of one player becoming bigger than the entire organization. Let's break down what she actually said versus what she meant. Clark told the Kelsey brothers that her Nike deal had been in the works for quite some time, and that the commercial was launching a whole year where my shoe eventually will come out. But here's what sources close to Nike reveal was really happening. The original timeline had her signature shoe dropping in her rookie season. 2024 was supposed to be the year Caitlin Clark became a household name, with her own sneaker line competing against established stars. But behind closed doors, WNBA executives allegedly pressured Nike to slow the rollout, arguing that pushing one rookie too hard would damage league parity and upset veteran players who'd been waiting years for similar deals. The financial implications here are absolutely staggering. Industry insiders leaked that Clark's Nike deal is worth north of $28 million over 8 years, making it one of the largest contracts in WNBA history. But that's just base salary. The real money comes from royalties on her signature shoe, which market analysts project could generate over $150 million in first-year sales alone. To put that in perspective, that's more than the entire WNBA generated in total revenue just 3 years ago. One player, one shoe. More revenue than an entire professional league. Now you understand why the establishment was terrified. What happened next during the interview exposed even more. Clark described the commercial as very me and talked about how it featured her college coach Travis Scott and the Kelsey brothers, plus people that have been huge fans throughout my career. Sounds wholesome, right? But sources reveal what she couldn't say on air. The original Nike campaign was supposed to include several WNBA veterans to show unity and passing the torch. But according to leaked emails, multiple players refused to participate once they learned the campaign was centered around Clark. Behind closed doors, there was an orchestrated effort to make her feel isolated, to send the message that she hadn't earned her spot yet, despite being the most decorated college player in history and the #1 draft pick. Then the conversation shifted to injuries, and this is where things get really suspicious. Clark casually mentioned it was a long and tough year of reoccurring injuries, and that when you get one nagging thing, it kind of leads to another. She specifically mentioned groin and quad issues that kept her off the court, and said, "It's weird learning to run again in a way." For most people listening, this sounds like bad luck. But sources close to the Indiana Fever training staff reveal a completely different story. Leaked reports suggest that Clark was being overworked intentionally during her rookie season, playing excessive minutes compared to other rookies in similar situations because the Fever were desperate to sell tickets and generate revenue after years of being the league's worst team. Here's where it gets darker. Insiders reveal that Clark was playing through pain for weeks before the injuries were officially acknowledged. Why would a franchise risk their generational talent like that? Follow the money. The Indiana Fever saw attendance increase by over 300% when Clark joined the roster. Merchandise sales featuring her number 22 jersey accounted for 67% of all WNBA merchandise sold in the first half of the season. Season ticket renewals jumped from 31% to 94% year over year. The Fever weren't just selling basketball anymore, they were selling Caitlin Clark, and they were willing to run her into the ground to maximize profits while they could. But that wasn't the whole story. Clark told the Kelsey brothers that we had like 6 of our players go down with injuries during the season, which she called unreal. She framed it as the team showing resilience by still making it to the semifinals despite the injuries. But leaked information from team sources paints a much different picture. Multiple players on the Fever privately complained about the training staff and strength and conditioning program, claiming the organization was cutting corners to save money even as revenue exploded. One source revealed that the Fever's sports science budget was still among the lowest in the league despite having the most valuable player in basketball on their roster. What happened behind closed doors was even more shocking. According to insiders, there were heated meetings between Clark's representatives and Fever management about her workload and injury prevention protocols. Her camp allegedly demanded that the team hire additional medical staff and implement load management strategies similar to what NBA superstars receive. Management reportedly resisted, arguing that fans were paying to see Caitlin Clark play, not rest. The compromise? They'd acknowledge the injuries publicly, but keep pushing her to play through pain whenever possible. This wasn't bad luck or a tough season. This was calculated risk management where the asset was a human being. Now here's where the Team USA situation gets really interesting. Clark mentioned returning to practice with Team USA after her injuries, describing it as getting thrown back out into the fire with the best players in the world. She talked about it like an honor, an opportunity to prove herself. But sources reveal that her inclusion in that camp was controversial behind the scenes. Leaked reports indicate that several Team USA veterans lobbied coaches to exclude Clark from the training camp, arguing she hadn't proven herself at the professional level yet and shouldn't get special treatment based on college success and media hype. The conspiracy goes deeper. Remember, Clark was famously left off the 2024 Olympic roster despite being the biggest name in women's basketball. The official explanation was that veteran experience was prioritized for the Paris Games. But now sources close to USA Basketball reveal what really happened in those selection meetings. There was an orchestrated campaign by establishment players and coaches to keep Clark off the roster, not because of basketball reasons, but because they feared she would overshadow everyone else and become the face of women's basketball on the world's biggest stage before paying her dues in the WNBA. The vote allegedly wasn't even close, with several committee members actively campaigning against her inclusion. Clark played it perfectly during the podcast, showing no bitterness and saying the Duke practice was cool and that she hopes to make the World Cup team in 2026 and the Olympic team in 2028. But leaked text messages from her inner circle tell a different story. Sources say she was devastated by the Olympic snub and that it motivated every single thing she did during her rookie season. That's why she played through injuries. That's why she never complained about the workload. She was determined to make it impossible for them to exclude her ever again. And now, with her Nike deal officially launched and her signature shoe coming, she's positioning herself as bigger than any single team or league. If you're not subscribed yet, hit that button now and drop a comment telling us if you think Caitlin Clark is being held back by jealous veterans or if she needs to earn her spot the hard way. Because what we're about to reveal next changes everything. Let's talk about the signature shoe specifically, because there's a conspiracy here that goes way beyond basketball. Clark mentioned she'll be wearing it on the court this coming season and that she's most excited about that. Nike already has merch out with her logo, which the Kelsey brothers were wearing during the interview. Sounds like a straightforward product launch, right? But industry insiders reveal that Nike is betting everything on Caitlin Clark in a way they haven't done since signing LeBron James 22 years ago. The internal projections leaked from Nike executives show they expect Clark's signature line to generate over $400 million in revenue within 3 years. That's not a typo. $400 million from one women's basketball player's shoe line. Now you understand why the WNBA establishment is terrified. If Clark's Nike line generates that kind of revenue, she'll have more financial power than the entire league. She won't need the WNBA, the league needs her. Sources reveal that WNBA Commissioner Kathy Engelbert held emergency meetings with team owners after the Nike deal was announced, discussing how to maintain competitive balance and league control when one player has that much leverage. Leaked notes from those meetings allegedly show discussions about implementing salary cap exceptions specifically designed to allow teams to pay Clark more while preventing other players from demanding similar treatment. The revenue numbers expose the full scope of what's happening. Caitlin Clark's rookie season generated an estimated $89 million in additional revenue for the WNBA through increased attendance, merchandise sales, broadcast viewership bumps, and sponsorship deals. That's more than double what the league generated in total revenue just 5 years ago. One player doubled the league's economic output, and that was during an injury-plagued season where she missed time and wasn't at full strength. Sources close to broadcast partners reveal that networks are already negotiating new WNBA deals with clauses that specifically guarantee Caitlin Clark's participation in nationally televised games, something that's never been done before in league history. But here's what happened next that shocked everyone in the industry. Major sponsors started calling Nike directly, bypassing the WNBA entirely, to negotiate deals featuring Caitlin Clark. Leaked contract offers show that brands like Gatorade, State Farm, and even tech companies that have never been involved in women's sports were offering 7-figure deals for Clark's endorsement. Nike allegedly told these brands they needed to work through the WNBA's partnership structure to avoid alienating the league. But sources say several brands pushed back, arguing that they wanted Caitlin Clark specifically, not the WNBA, and they were willing to pay premium rates to get her without the league taking a cut. This created full panic mode at WNBA headquarters. The entire business model of the league is based on collective marketing and revenue sharing. But what happens when one player is so valuable that brands don't want the collective, they only want her? Leaked internal memos allegedly show WNBA executives discussing ways to require Clark to participate in more league-wide marketing initiatives and to limit her individual endorsement deals to prevent her from becoming bigger than the game. But Clark's representatives reportedly shut down those conversations immediately, pointing out that her contract guarantees her the right to pursue individual opportunities and that trying to limit her would violate basic labor laws. Now, let's talk about what Clark revealed about the commercial itself, because there's hidden meaning in every detail. She said the ad featured people that have been apart since I was either in high school or now professionally. Notice who wasn't mentioned? Her WNBA teammates. The commercial featured her college coach, musicians, podcast hosts, but according to sources, no current WNBA players appeared in the final cut. That wasn't an accident. Leaked information from the production suggests that Nike originally wanted to include Aaliyah Boston and other Fever teammates to show chemistry and team unity. But after the script was shared with potential participants, several players declined, with some allegedly saying they didn't want to be props in Caitlin Clark's coronation. Behind closed doors, this created a massive rift in the Fever locker room. Sources close to the team revealed that there were heated discussions about player jealousy and resentment toward Clark's marketing opportunities. Some veterans allegedly argued that the team's success was collective and that Clark was getting disproportionate credit and financial benefits. Clark's camp reportedly responded by pointing to the attendance and revenue numbers, showing that her presence had literally saved the franchise from potential relocation discussions and made everyone's contracts more valuable. But the damage was done. The sisterhood narrative the WNBA loves to promote was falling apart because one player had become too big. Then there's the detail about the jersey number situation with Team USA that Clark mentioned. She told the story about being assigned number 17 randomly because veteran players get to keep their numbers and newcomers just get whatever's left. She played it off as no big deal, saying, "Nobody asked me, but it was fine." But sources reveal what she couldn't say publicly. Being assigned number 17 instead of her iconic number 22 was allegedly a deliberate choice by veteran players on the selection committee who wanted to remind her that she was a rookie on the international stage, regardless of her college success or WNBA fame. It was another small way to put her in her place. What makes this even more revealing is when Clark explained that international basketball only allows numbers 4 through 15, meaning she'll have to choose a completely different number if she makes the Olympic team. She mentioned the bag tag tradition, where players can see everyone who's worn their jersey number before them, including NBA and WNBA legends. Sounds inspiring, right? But insiders reveal that veteran players specifically requested that rookies not be allowed to choose their numbers at training camps to avoid newcomers taking historically significant numbers and disrespecting the players who wore them previously. This was directed at Clark specifically, because everyone knew she'd want single digits to match her WNBA number 22, translated to international rules. Sources close to USA Basketball reveal that there were actual debates about whether Clark should be allowed to wear number 4, which would be the closest to her college and pro numbers. But that number has been worn by several Team USA legends, and veterans allegedly argued that Clark hadn't earned the right to that legacy yet. So she got stuck with 17 at camp, a number with no significance, as a reminder of her place in the hierarchy. The conspiracy here is that this wasn't about tradition or respect. It was about controlling someone who was threatening to disrupt the established order. Let's talk about what this means for 2025 and beyond, because leaked information reveals plans that go way beyond basketball. Nike sources indicate that Clark's signature shoe line will expand into lifestyle products by 2026, meaning casual sneakers, apparel, and accessories targeting not just basketball players but general consumers. The market research Nike conducted showed that Caitlin Clark has higher name recognition among women aged 18 to 34 than any WNBA player in history. And she's approaching the recognition levels of male athletes like Steph Curry and Patrick Mahomes in certain demographics. This isn't just a basketball shoe deal. This is Nike positioning Caitlin Clark as the face of women's sports across all categories. The financial projections get even crazier. If the signature shoe line hits Nike's internal targets, sources reveal that Clark's royalty payments alone could exceed $15 million per year by 2027. That would make her the highest-paid women's basketball player in history by multiple times over, earning more from shoes than from actually playing basketball. And that's before counting her other endorsement deals, which industry insiders estimate could total another $20 million annually within 3 years. We're talking about a WNBA player potentially earning $35 million per year, while the league's maximum salary is less than $300,000. The economic disparity is so extreme, it's almost absurd. Behind closed doors, this has WNBA leadership and the players' union in emergency meetings about how to handle the situation. Leaked reports suggest the union is split. Younger players and those who benefit from increased league exposure love what Clark is doing because it raises all boats. But veterans and established stars are reportedly furious that someone who's played less than 2 full professional seasons is earning 50 times what the max contract pays and generating more individual revenue than players who've been carrying the league for over a decade. Sources say there have been discussions about implementing some kind of revenue-sharing requirement for individual endorsements above certain thresholds, but legal experts say that would never survive a court challenge. The conspiracy extends to broadcast and media coverage, too. Sources close to ESPN and other major networks reveal that they've been pressured by WNBA teams and players to reduce coverage of Caitlin Clark specifically and focus more on the entire league. But the networks pushed back with viewership data showing that games featuring Clark draw 3 to 4 times more viewers than games without her. When networks tried to create more balanced coverage by promoting other stars equally, viewership dropped significantly. Cold, hard truth that nobody wants to say publicly is that casual fans are tuning in for Caitlin Clark specifically, not for women's basketball in general. And that makes everyone uncomfortable except Nike and Clark's sponsors, who are perfectly happy to ride one superstar to unprecedented profits. Now here's what sources reveal about this upcoming season that changes everything. The Indiana Fever have allegedly implemented completely new training, medical, and performance protocols specifically designed around keeping Clark healthy and maximizing her performance. They hired 3 new staff members in sports science and injury prevention, tripled their budget for player recovery and wellness, and according to insiders, created individualized programs for their star players that weren't available in previous seasons. This only happened because Clark's camp made it clear that another injury-plagued season would damage not just her career, but her massive endorsement portfolio, and they were prepared to explore every possible option to protect their investment. The Fever ownership also allegedly approved significant facility upgrades and travel improvements that put them closer to NBA standards than typical WNBA operations. Why the sudden investment after years of being a budget franchise? Because sources revealed that the team's valuation has increased by over 200% since drafting Caitlin Clark. What was worth maybe $15 to $20 million as a struggling franchise is now estimated at $50 to $60 million purely because of one player. If that player gets injured again or becomes unhappy with the organization, that valuation crashes back down. So now ownership is finally spending money to protect their most valuable asset and keep her happy. But leaked information suggests there's more going on behind the scenes. Sources close to Clark's representation reveal that they've had preliminary discussions with other teams about what a potential trade or future free agency might look like. This is years away from being realistic, but the fact that these conversations are even happening shows how different the power dynamics are now. Traditionally, WNBA players have almost no leverage compared to the league and teams. But when one player is generating more revenue than entire franchises and has personal endorsements worth more than team payrolls, the leverage shifts dramatically. Leaked sponsorship documents allegedly show that brands were offering significantly less money for Olympic marketing partnerships after Clark was excluded from the Paris Games, with several specifically saying they were less interested in Team USA women's basketball without her involvement. USA Basketball apparently got the message loud and clear. Including Clark isn't just about basketball talent anymore. It's about financial viability of the entire program. Before we wrap this up, let me expose one more conspiracy that sources reveal about what's really happening in women's basketball right now. This isn't about Caitlin Clark versus other players. This is about a fundamental power struggle between the old guard establishment that built the WNBA over 25 years and a new generation that has completely different leverage through social media, personal branding, and individual endorsement power. Clark is just the most visible example of this shift. But behind closed doors, every major brand and media company is reevaluating how they approach women's sports because one player proved that the economic model everyone assumed was true. That women's basketball couldn't generate major revenue was completely wrong. The conspiracy is that league executives and veteran players are trying desperately to maintain the collective model and prevent individual players from having too much power, while brands and media companies have realized they can bypass the league entirely and build campaigns around individual stars who have their own audiences and influence. Leaked emails from major sponsors allegedly show them discussing whether they even need the WNBA as a partner anymore, or if they can just sign individual players to endorsement deals and create their own content and marketing. If that happens, the entire structure of the league could collapse because the collective bargaining and revenue sharing model falls apart when players can make more money outside the league than in it. That's why everything about Caitlin Clark's Nike deal, her injury management, her Team USA situation, and her upcoming signature shoe matters so much. This isn't just about one player getting opportunities. Drop a comment and tell us if you think Caitlin Clark is revolutionizing women's basketball, or if the establishment is right to pump the brakes on one player having too much power. And stick around because our next video reveals even more leaked information about what's planned for this season that nobody is supposed to know about yet. The conspiracy goes deeper than anyone realizes, and we're just getting started exposing the truth.